The Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival is an annual event that takes place in beautiful Cape Canaveral, Florida in late January. This area, known as the Space Coast because the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station are also located there, is a premier birding destination with many unique species to see and many wildlife refuges and natural areas to visit. The festival takes place over 5 days and includes guided birding and nature trips, presentations and workshops, keynote speakers, photography trips, an expo center with vendors, including optics and tour companies, events for young birders, and more. In 2025, my brother Ryan and I visited the 27th festival in order to see what it was all about. We arrived at our hotel in Cape Canaveral and got ready for our first day of the festival the following morning. We're now here at our room at the Radisson, and this is where the festival is based out of this resort here. So the room's nice, but it is really windy and it was pretty rainy today. So I'm hoping the weather isn't too bad tomorrow, but I'm excited to see what the festival is all about and see some more birds. Day 1.
We're gonna see what conditions face us today. It's rainy and cold. Looks about the same as yesterday, except maybe worse.
Our first stop was the convention center, where registration was taking place and the vendors were setting up. We're here at the registration booth, so this is the first thing you would probably do when you show up here, is you'd be at your hotel, you'd come in, you get registered, you get your badge, and some of the field trips are actually running already, so you might have that right away. But it's kind of cold today, so some of them didn't run, but hopefully in future festivals the weather's beautiful.
Right now, everybody here is setting up their booth for the rest of the week for people that are staying all week, and it's kind of the calm before the metaphorical storm as we kind of have an actual storm going on outside. But it's interesting to see what they're going to do this week with the weather not being ideal for the first couple of days. I bet a lot of people are going to come in here. We went to the registration area and we got a free water bottle, and then we got some Space Coast t-shirts as well. So that's exciting to finally get some Space Coast stuff, and we'll be probably wearing it sometime the rest of the week.
After getting our gear and stopping for breakfast, we headed to our first location, Blackpoint Wildlife Drive, which is a 7-mile auto tour that's part of Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. The refuge consists of 140,000 acres of habitat and was established in 1963 to protect migratory birds. It is now home to over 1,500 different plant and animal species. After a little bit of driving, we arrived at our destination. So we just paid the $10 fee, but we got out, saw some egrets, saw some shorebirds, but I think spending more time in the car is a good call because it is pretty windy out there. But let's see what we can find on this wildlife drive. I've been really loving the habitat. There's some mangroves out there, love mangroves, so this should be a fun time. Right at the entrance of the drive was a variety of shorebirds, including an abundance of Wilson snipes. Further down, the vegetation opened up, and we noticed even more interesting species. There's loads of waterfowl, there's terns flying around, there's a pair of roseate spoonbills. One cool thing about them is as they get old, they actually get bald, so it looked like one older individual and then one younger individual feeding. And it's just so much to look through out here. When you have so many birds around you and they're at such close range, it's hard to know what to focus on. So this was definitely one of my favorite parts so far here. After our time at Blackpoint, we stopped at a manatee overlook to see if we could get our lifer views of these special mammals.
No manatees this time, but we're not going to stop. We're going to keep trying to find manatees. Maybe not today, but some other day.
You know
we'll get them.
You know what I do have for you?
What?
A cattle egret.
Ooh, look at them. I'm a fan.
After striking out on manatees, we made a stop at Haulover Canal to see if we could locate some American flamingos that had been hanging out there, but they also didn't seem to be cooperative. We have not seen any flamingos yet, but we have had a couple dolphins hanging out over here, a spotted sandpiper, and we've just been enjoying the iconic landscape with the mangroves and the beach and, the dolphins hanging out. After exploring the canal, we made it back to the convention center where the vendors were now all set up, chatted with some friends, and stopped in notable author Rosemary Mosco's keynote presentation. Rosemary highlighted some common species that are often overlooked, and also showed some of her funny comics. After that, we headed back to our room to prepare for the next day. Day 2. Seems less windy, which is good. Still cold and gray, though. After getting some breakfast, we headed to Helen and Alan Cruikshank Sanctuary to look for the Florida scrub jay, Florida's only endemic bird species. With the windy conditions, there were only a few species of birds perched up, and none of them were scrub jays. We continued walking, and eventually ran into a group of our target birds.
That's a life bird.
That's a life bird. It's nice to get it in this really cool habitat, too.
We're here hanging out with some Florida scrub jays, the only endemic bird species of Florida, which makes them very special. So we are very excited to see these birds that are actually federally threatened.
We have one of the scrub jays foraging right in front of us here, and they've been being really goofy. Once we found them, we got to see some of their behavior of walking on the path, being in the trees, being on top of the trees. So even though it's not the best weather for them, they still seem to be pretty active once we were able to locate where they were. After appreciating the scrub jays, we decided to move on to our next adventure.
Now we're doing something we weren't really planning on doing today, but it feels like a must do. We're going to check out the manatees at Blue Spring.
Blue Spring State Park has crystal clear spring-fed water that is warmer than the water in the surrounding areas, which attracts manatees when the temperatures drop. After parking, we walked towards the water to get our first ever looks at manatees.
Looks like there's a few manatees out here. Oh yeah, look. Oh, you can see a ton of them. Look at that. There's all heading left. You can see the faces breaching out of the water. That's so cool.
Further down, we got even better views of the manatees. This is so cool. This is exactly what we wanted. Come to Blue Spring.
The manatees we're looking at right now are called West Indian manatees, and they actually have separate subspecies. So the one we have here is the aptly named Florida subspecies, or the Florida manatee.
We spent a while watching the manatees, stopped by the gift shop, and also appreciated the birds and fish before heading out. On our drive back, we got word that a rare black-headed gull was spotted at the Cocoa Landfill. Unfortunately, we arrived near the time when it was closing, so we weren't able to get in. However, we added it as an option for a cool rare bird to chase in the coming days. Overall, we had a fun, gloomy, and rainy day, finding the scrub jays and seeing the manatees, proving that the wildlife is still findable in Florida even if the weather doesn't cooperate. Day 3. Our third day of the festival included our first field trip, which was a meet-on-site trip led by gull expert Amar Ayash, who already had some rare birds picked out for us to find.
You ready to shove off then? You will follow Amar. We'll give you directions to get to the glaucous gull.
First field trip. We're going to look at some gulls and shorebirds. Lots of people here. Should be a good time.
We arrived at the harbor, and everyone excitedly went towards the water to try and get a look at the rare glaucous gull. Almost immediately, we spotted this large white bird in the distance. Even with the excitement, the weather was still on the top of our minds.
I think this is the worst day we've had yet of weather, but we got a glaucous gull, and I have a feeling it's just the beginning because Amar is going to pick it out if it's here.
Pick what out?
Anything.
I'm Amar. We're going to Jetty Park. As far as gulls, tier 1 gulls would be like laughing gull, ring-billed gull, lesser blackback. Tier 2 gulls would be great blackback, Bonapartes, and tier 3, we just got one, glaucous, and if we're really lucky, we'll get an Iceland or Sabins.
Our group headed over to Jetty Park, where some terns and gulls gave great photo opportunities while flying next to the jetties against the wind. So we had a bunch of Bonaparte's gulls, Forster's terns, Royal terns out here, but we're going to move down the pier to see what else we can get. The Bonapartes are giving really nice views, which is nice, and I was taking some time to photograph them. Really beautiful. We moved further down and eventually ended up on the beach, where a mixed flock of birds provided some nice views. A good addition to the group of birds were some friendly ruddy turnstones that would pop over to our group to say hello. The ruddy turnstones, they come right up to you. They act like little puppies. It's actually really adorable. After leaving the beach to get out of the wind for a bit, Amar got some news that would change the course of the rest of the day for us.
It's not a bird that's here, but they do have the black-headed gull at the Cocoa Landfill. I can give you a pin if you want to try for it now. I wouldn't be offended if you left the group.
We arrived at the Cocoa Landfill checked in, received our safety vests, and a map. Once we got to the location where the bird had been seen, we started trying to re-find it amongst the other gulls. With the help of some other birders, we eventually had a breakthrough. Nice. That is so cool. We got our lifer black-headed gull. That wasn't even on our radar for this festival, but I feel like that's kind of the star bird. We got a ton of people here at the dump looking for this rare species, and the sun's out. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, I never thought I'd be qualified to say this, but I've been to several landfills looking at birds, and this is a really quality landfill for birding. The people that we talked to when we came in here said that a lot of people come birding here because, I mean, there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of birds. It's not just gulls. There's white ibises, there's wood storks, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. But we were able to find that bird. It was really tough to pick out. It looks like a Bonaparte skull with an orangey bill. And I don't know if I'd have been able to find it if not for all the info that other people gave us on where it was, and people found it in their scope and everything. And once you kind of know what it looks like, you can pick it out, but it's tough. It's tough out here.
Yeah, the original finders are here, and that helped a bunch, having them to kind of help locate it. So everything took off, so we're going to try to find it again, see if we can get some more media. All the gulls took off and flew over us, so I definitely got hit. It's brutal. It's dangerous.
He was in the splash zone.
It's a dangerous game out here in the dump. After our successful rare bird chase, we went back to the hotel to stop by a sparrow identification workshop. After that, we made our way down to Rich Grissom Memorial Wetlands, also known as Vieira Wetlands. This area hosts over 200,000 birders each year and is a great place to see marsh specialties. So far, this has been a really chill and relaxing place to be. You're kind of above the marsh, so you get to look down into it. And now that the sun's come out, it just feels so much more relaxing out here. In the wetlands, we saw great blue herons, egrets, wood storks, and a nice group of other wading birds up in the trees. Although the wading birds were fascinating, it was a small, brightly colored songbird that stopped us in our tracks. We just had a beautiful male painted bunting, and I feel like that really made the walk for us, because we had seen some cool birds, but when you get a species like that, it just kind of makes the whole trip. Roseate spoonbill too, that's another species where it's like, wow, you're just kind of blown away by it. So great find on that male painted bunting here. We finished our loop around the wetlands, spotting a cooperative blue-gray gnatcatcher on the way out, before heading back to the hotel to catch author Ken Kaufman's keynote presentation on his book, The Birds That Audubon Missed. After the presentation, we caught up with Ken, who told us more about his book and his thoughts on the festival.
Ken Kaufman. I'm here at the Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival, partly to talk about my relatively new book, Birds That Audubon Missed, and mostly just to hang out because this is such a great festival. I've spoken at Space Coast before, but they've moved to a new venue now. This is really a great spot to have this event. So just love coming here at this time of year, partly because it's always so warm and sunny and the weather's so pleasant. So,
Good one.
yeah, a little chilly this year, but not compared to Ohio at this moment. So yeah, just happy to be here and happy to be talking with you guys.
So we just got back from Ken's talk. It was really great and really well received. And we actually got to hang out with Ken afterwards, and Greg Miller, who Jack Black's character in The Big Ear is based on his life. He was there, our friend Will was there, Allison from Birding by Ear. We just saw Amar, who wrote the Gull Guide. So great aspect of these festivals is that you get to hang out with other birders and just get to socialize. You're all in one place and you can talk about the birds you saw, ask them questions. It's really fun and really great reason to go to one of these festivals. Day 4. On the 4th day of the festival, we got to hang out with famous birder Greg Miller. In the movie The Big Year, Jack Black's character was based on Greg. Our first stop was Hal Scott Regional Park and Preserve, where we were hoping to find red-cockaded woodpeckers amongst the longleaf pines. We walked the trail, looking and listening for signs of woodpeckers. While we walked, Greg confirmed we were searching in the right spot.
All around here, it's nice and wide and open. You have soft palmetto at the base, and the trees are not too close together. And this is prime habitat.
After not hearing much for most of our walk, we eventually crossed a small flooded part of the trail, and stumbled upon our target bird, the red-cockaded woodpecker.
What a great experience we just had with that red-cockaded woodpecker. We watched it creep up the tree, pick at the bark of the tree, and go about its day, and eventually it flew off a little further. So in this spot, we also got brown-headed nuthatch. So those are about the two birds that we were expecting to get in here.
This is definitely worth a stop. And you should never turn down an opportunity to see red-cockaded woodpeckers. It's a real treat.
Red-cockaded.
Feeling excited about seeing our target species, we left the woods and headed to one of the area's premier birding destinations, Orlando Wetlands. We started out by taking a free guided tram ride, where we learned about the history of the man-made wetlands and saw a lot of wildlife, including a secretive American bittern. The tram was a great way to see a lot of the area quickly. Afterwards, we had a chance to catch up with one of our guides, who told us a little bit more about this special place.
One thing that we promote here is what the wetlands does for the environment and also for the wildlife. Especially a lot of people that come here don't know that this great place is the largest man-made water reclamation facility in the United States. And what it does here and how it's managed is a key factor on the water levels, on nitrogen and phosphate that gets delivered into the St. Johns River. So a lot of people come to see alligators, but we get to see a lot more that want to come and see the birds, and also to learn a little bit more about this great place.
Next, we visited the boardwalk, where the close-up views of marsh birds blew us away. One vibrant species in particular caught our attention.
Absolutely nuts to be able to get this close to purple gallinules just right off the boardwalk. And then every time I think I'm done, I'm like, okay, I've gotten a lot of looks at this bird, gotten a lot of videos. I look at it again, I'm like, no, I need to go back and do this. And then in the background, there's all these spoonbills. So you've got these bright pink birds out there, you got the purple birds here. It's just crazy out here.
It's one thing to get one thing close, but everything has been right up in your face, so close you can't even focus on them.
After an incredible experience at Orlando Wetlands, we headed back to the convention center to talk to some of the vendors. How's the festival?
It's been great so far. A lot of interest, a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming in just to say hi. It's been a lot of fun.
Hello there, I am Mariah Heinovich. I am here at the Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival. I am showcasing Phone Scope products. So Phone Scope is a company that makes cell phone adapters to attach your cell phone to your spotting scope to take pictures and videos, or they even have adapters for your binoculars as well.
Yeah, it's a fun festival. It's actually my first time here at Space Coast.
Would you recommend people to come and check everything out?
Especially for the northerners, yeah, it's great. I think I saw 1,000 wood storks today, so don't get that back home in Indiana very often.
Here with the Brevard County Environmentally Endangered Lands Program. We're part of the county government for Brevard County. We manage, I think it's about 22,000 acres of property, natural lands throughout Brevard County, 72 miles long. Scrub jays are one of our focuses, also sea turtles. We exist because the citizens of Brevard County have voted 3 times to fund us through a special assessment on their taxes. So it shows some forward thinking by the people of Brevard County since the 90s.
Later that night, we also participated in a night hike at the Enchanted Forest Sanctuary. It was a fun event with a nice atmosphere, but unfortunately high winds kept the owls from making themselves known to our group. After the hike, we headed back to the hotel to get ready for our last day of the festival. Day 5. Our first event of the day was a shorebird identification workshop with local guides David Simpson and D. Fairbanks Simpson, which took place at a notable seafood restaurant.
We're at a legendary location, Dixie Crossroads. It's a restaurant that's actually owned by the family of the founder of the festival. So this is where David Simpson's talk on shorebird ID is happening. And shorebird ID is something that I would love to get more info on, especially out in this part of the country. So we're gonna go check out some of that talk, and then we'll see where we go from there.
David and Dee did a great job talking about the ID features to look for, and the presentation also included ID of some other types of birds, including one that looked similar to a notable celebrity.
Gee, what the heck? There's this bird and he looks just like Danny DeVito. And I'm like, that's a royal turd. I knew just right away what she was talking about. He's got this short, squat little body and the bell pattern body. It was so funny. It's like, it's just what it reminds you of.
Danny DeVito's catching strays out here.
After the workshop, we went out to Blackpoint Wildlife Drive to test our newfound ID knowledge out in the field.
There's two long-billed dowitchers right in front of me, and one of the things that David said was it looks like they swallowed a grapefruit, and you can definitely see it in these when they're nice and close. So it's awesome to have the ID workshop where you can see the pictures of things and then get to try it out in the field, and even consult with experts and say, hey, is this what I'm seeing?
Shorebird ID workshop. We've got a nice collection of long-billed dowitchers out here. They're feeding mostly out in the water, doing the sewing machine-like motion, the classic probing motion there. Grayish chest, white belly, little hunchback. They say swallowed a grapefruit type look, big chest, hunchback. And also mixed in there is Wilson snipe, which is very similar in shape and size. A little bit shorter legged than the dowitchers. Same kind of probing motion, but a little bit more stuttery. And it's more uniform, constant with long-billed. Snipe kind of tends to do this little hesitant type thing, and of course snipe has the streaking on the breast and the bold stripes on the back, the black back with the pale stripes on the back, but otherwise very similar. So really interesting opportunity to see both of them together like this.
After enjoying the beautiful morning at the Wildlife Drive, we headed back to Haulover Canal for a kayak trip, which was part of the festival. We were also finally able to see the American flamingos way off in the distance.
Got them, but those are some real distant flamingos. They're way out there. I'm glad we got them. That's a pretty iconic species that you can find sometimes here in Florida.
We began our kayak tour, which gave us the opportunity to view the wildlife in a new way, including the birds, fish, and an alligator sunning itself on the bank. It was an extremely pleasant day to be out on the water, and our guide Brian was extremely knowledgeable. During our trip, we even got to see some comb jellyfish up close. After our kayak trip, we headed to the Cape Canaveral National Seashore. We paid our entrance fee and headed to the beach in hopes of seeing some northern gannets, which would be a lifer for Ryan.
I don't know how good our odds actually are. It's going to be a ways out there if it's here, but people have been saying that this is the place to go for northern gannet in this area, so I think this is our best chance.
While scanning the beach, it didn't take long to see the majestic gannets hunting over the water.
This is absolutely unbelievable. I thought it was going to be a lot harder to find these gannets. People told us they were going to be really far out. I was thinking scope view, barely visible, but they're totally within range to actually get a really decent look at. Not only are there juveniles out here, there's actually a few adults too. We saw one fly by. So we're probably going to watch for more of them, chill here for a little while, see if there's any other birds, but unbelievable northern gannet experience, my lifer.
Pleased with our sighting, we headed out from the beach and headed back to our hotel, concluding our festival adventures. In the next few days, we headed south in order to see some different bird species, including some of the interesting parrots you can now find in Florida. Overall, we had a great time enjoying the Space Coast Festival, as well as the beautiful birds and wildlife that live in Florida. If you have the chance to attend, I would highly recommend it. What part of our adventures was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.